Welcome to Messier Mantra. On this episode, we have a return guest. Her name is Judith Blacquier. Judith, did I say that right?
Yes, Blacquier.
I like that name. Is that French or Italian?
It is French.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm French too, yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, Messier.
Oh,
Mike
yeah.
Messier, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. I'm going to come at you from a different angle here.
Yeah.
I mentioned we're both French. And I've noticed with my friends of different ethnicities, my Italian friends are very big on loyalty and protocol and respect and all these things. And, you know, don't you cross that line, you know what I mean? So and robustness and being kind of loud and in your face and passionate and emotional. And as a French person, sometimes I'm kind of amused, you know, I'm kind of passively, aggressively amused by this and not as emotionally available as some of my Italian American friends. Do you ever, this is just something I threw it at you, we didn't even talk about it before, but have you ever thought about, or in your studies, have you recognized or even thought about now, cultural differences, you know, different ethnicities, different upbringings, maybe even people in different sections of Rhode Island, like you and I both live in the South County section of Rhode Island, and people maybe from Boston or from Providence, you know, have different territorial enigmas, like, is that something that you come across, or am I just throwing something out from left field at you?
No, that's fascinating that you would even, or synchronistic that you would bring that up.
Yeah.
I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but I grew up in Medford, which you would say Italian.
Right.
There were many people that were from the North End in Boston that moved to Medford. And so I was in a predominantly Italian neighborhood growing up. And, you know, my neighbors on both sides were like cooking the sauce and all these delicious things. And my mother would be making chicken fricassee or something. And I'm like, oh no. But yeah, definitely. And everyone was Catholic. And we were the little, you know, the Protestant family. And really interesting stuff. I mean, the religion say also, in the training that I've done now, I recognize that you know, that candles have a certain, you know, the candlelight is a certain energy. I mean, burning sage or incense is a certain energy and vibration. And growing up Presbyterian, it was like the Catholic Church for me was like, ooh, they must be practicing voodoo with their incense, and you know, not knowing anything about it. It turns out that there's so many similarities, say in the healing work, in shamanism, and different things in the church. I actually went to a Catholic priest healer in Massachusetts, and he shared. He's 86 years old, and he shared in this healing service, and he said, I've never done this before, but I am led to tell you how I heal. Oh, wow. So he went through what he wears, what the prayers are that he says, and it's very similar to my training. And not so much my training externally, but my training as when I go in and work, I'm just basically listening and feeling. And what comes through is similar to what he was talking about. One thing he said was, I heal in the name of the, or I represent the 5 continents. Okay. You know, he raises his hands, it's 5. It's like, what does that bring up? I mean, we all think of the, you know, the pagan, the 5-pointed star, and the circle, you know, so he's talking about I heal in the name of the 5 continents, and you know, and it was a constant going back and forth with the Hail Marys and the Our Fathers, which we don't really have any. Mary isn't really talked about much for in the Presbyterian Church, but in the Catholic Church, I think she's referred to as the Mother of God. Yes. And back to this idea of that we're like trees. We're also like light bulbs. Okay. And to light a light bulb, you need a positive and negative charge. Okay. And that's how, in a sense, this work differs from a lot of the New Age work or some of the energetic, spiritual work that's out there. they're only talking about the positive.
Right.
And what's missing is that to actually light the light bulb,
yes,
you need the positive and negative charge. And of course, there's a filament there that's holding them apart, but you do need both.
Yes.
And so for me, I don't really judge that work, but having cancer and having being told if it comes back, it's terminal.
Oh,
and then 3 years later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Which was just sort of, it sort of was a kick in the butt to just find some healing for myself.
Right.
And so I didn't stop at like looking at the healing work that was like, oh, just be positive and everything will be fine. Intuitively, I knew that's not true.
Right.
And what I found was that, in fact, it isn't true. That you need the positive charge, the negative charge, to light the light bulb, to heal, to transform. And so it's interesting that this Catholic priest is talking about the same sort of thing.
Right.
The father energy, the mother energy. It's all connected. And but anyway, back to the different Italians versus the French. I mean, there's Saint Francis was he Italian, but then he moved to France?
Maybe,
or French and then he moved to Italy. I forget which one.
I'm not sure myself.
I think there's a connection to Umbria, Italy. I know.
Okay.
But he was connected with all the animals and
right.
The earth, the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, and that's really just nature.
Yes.
As a child, as I said before in the last interview, I was just really connected. I thought when I went outside that was God, that was the divine,
right.
And it wasn't until I was in college that I read. I was reading Paradise Lost by Milton.
Yeah. By John Milton, yeah.
And there was so much, the angel came with 3 sets of wings, and I was in an anthropology class, and the teacher is like, who is a creationalist in this class?
Right.
And he was basically wanting to embarrass whoever raised their hand.
Right.
So I raised my hand, but I began to wonder, like, I don't know, do I really believe in an angel with 3 sets of wings?
Right.
And, so I kind of walked away from that spiritual world.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. Well,
right.
Actually for worse, because in walking away from that spiritual work, I was really walking away from myself.
Wow.
Because the spiritual world is just, we're part of something greater than ourselves.
Right.
And that's the paradox again. In my journey of healing, to heal myself, or to find healing, I've recognized that it's a paradox, that
yes.
we are, it's all a paradox.
Yeah.
I mean, the visible world, the invisible world, that we flow in life force energy and it flows in us at each chakra. The other paradox is that, what was I just saying?
We're talking about the St. Francis.
Oh, yeah, and the animals.
Right.
And the other paradox is that we are part of something greater than ourselves.
Right.
We are a part of. Now, if I just think I'm God,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to be out of balance.
Right.
If I just think I'm not God, I'm going to be out of balance. But if I connect and hold the paradox that I am part of something greater than myself, I'm kind of both.
If the God in this metaphor that I'll make here is, and I read this somewhere else, but God, the metaphor of God is the ocean, and you and I are buckets of the water from the ocean.
Yeah.
Then we are God in the bucket of water, but also the water remains.
Right.
With or without us, the ocean's still there, and the bucket's still here. And you can even you put the water back in the ocean, you can take it back in, you can put more water into the bucket, all types of things, but that water is still there.
Good one. And that's also, talking about life symbolically, is that the visible world, the physical world, the finite world, the body is finite and will die. But the spirit is infinite.
Yes.
So it's sort of like the bucket in the water. I mean, what is inside the bucket is the ocean.
Right.
The ocean is eternal and infinite,
Yes.
or symbolically so. You know, the bucket, you know, sometimes you have to get a new bucket.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of things to talk about. It's interesting to me from the acting film, you know, background that I have. The way that you study all of this is what a well-prepared actor should study for the craft of acting. And some of the things that we talked about, the was it authentic movement, the breathing. These are traits that an actor, a superior actor, you know, Nicole Kidman, Meryl Streep, Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, would really benefit from if they're not doing it already, you know, overlapping with some of the traditional acting teachers, Uta Hagen, et cetera. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting to me. I want to ask you the question of the Messier mantra. We ask each guest to provide a mantra. And, you know, sometimes it's something that's you do think about. You know, some people have things written down on the refrigerator and some people don't, you know, but is there anything that you want to share, a little mantra for the audience that you kind of live by?
I think, in a sense, my teacher is actually my guide, my inner guide, and I'm always directed to get into the river, get into the stream and flow, and it really, you know, part of my journey came, as I said, when I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at age 40. I was living on the vineyard, and my sister was living in Boston, and I went and saw her acupuncturist.
Yeah.
And he said to me, it's like your life is a river and you're not in it.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really, I kind of got what he, you know, obviously I'm diagnosed with ovarian cancer at age 40, and I got it. Like, yeah, I'm really not in the river. You know, my life is a river and I'm not in it.
Right.
But I didn't know how to get in it.
Yeah.
And it was in meeting this medicine person. His actually is Golden Hummingbird, is what he goes by. And he's not even native. I mean, he grew up in Long Island, but medicine people basically work with their tribe.
Yes.
You know, so if you're not in a tribe, then you really don't have access to a medicine person.
Right. Describe the tribe real quick.
Well, a Native American tribe.
Okay.
You know, like
Yes.
there's all the, you know, on the vineyard there's the Wampanoags down in South County, the Narragansett, and I think there's some other tribes down there. So anyway, so I'm kind of jumping. Did I answer that question?
Well,
but I want to talk about acting. Something that you mentioned about acting, but. Did we finish this little?
Well, with Hummingbird, we're talking about.
Oh, Golden Hummingbird.
Yeah.
Yes. So he is someone. He now lives in LA.
Yes.
But he travels around the world, South America, Europe, and he does journeys also. That he just did a journey to Israel. He does journeys to Japan, to India, but he was someone for me that could kind of walk between the worlds,
right?
You know, and guide me there, because I recognized that my healing wasn't going to come from this world, because the medical doctors say we've done as much as we can, you're fine as far as we're concerned, see you later, but if it comes back, it's terminal.
And leave your insurance number at the door.
Yeah. So I knew that you know, what is going on?
Right.
You know, I need to access something else. So. That's when I had the dream that I needed to see a medicine person, and Golden Hummingbird showed up.
Yeah.
And he only came once a year, and he was coming that very week. But the thing about acting that's interesting to me is that I did go to art school.
Yes.
And I did a bit of performance art, and in one of my classes, we sat around in a circle telling a story.
Yes.
And the person that started the story was doing a hand motion and started the story. And then the person next to them picked up the story, doing their hand motion, and then transforming it to their own hand motion.
Okay.
Now, when it got to me, a very shy person, and I was doing my hand motion and all, I ended up telling this phenomenal story.
Wow.
Or, you know, part of it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, where did that come from? I was shocked.
Right.
And I never really could access that ever again.
Wow.
But when I began working with this medicine person and his partner, a man named Christos Tampanellis, who teaches Kabbalism and Hermetics and all this amazing stuff,
Yeah.
and is a medical clairvoyant. Anyway, that was just like trying to get all that in.
Sure, yeah.
But I could never access that place again.
Right.
But it turns out that what those hand motions were doing in the acting or performance art class is what I talk about in the work that I do. It's getting underneath the thinking mind.
Right.
Because the thinking mind is just going to spit out what we already know.
Negativity, routine, patterns.
Yeah, and it's great for that. But if you're trying, for artists or for healers, you're trying to access something from the infinite.
Divine place of inspiration, perhaps.
Yes. So you don't want to go to what's already created.
Right.
You want to find what's, what's being created or can be created. Or another way to talk about it is we're going outside time and space, which, that's a whole other way to talk about it.
Time is a tough one because time is unforgiving, but then sometimes you say, can I escape time? Where did time go, people ask. Well,
yeah.
What if there was no watches or clocks or even a sundial? Would there still be time? Would time exist if we didn't take track of it? If we didn't have calendars, would there be years? Or would it just be, the sun comes up, the sun comes down, that's it? Some thoughts there.
Yeah, well, actually, in a healing session where I offer a person the opportunity to heal themselves, really.
Yes.
I mean, not the opportunity, but I'm assisting them as they heal themselves. But we actually do it outside of time and space.
Right.
Because time and space, where we are right now, is sitting here with the illness. And it's not just about healing as in, oh, I have an illness. It's healing as in becoming more of our authentic self.
Right.
Healing really is, in a sense, just taking off layers of covering that, because in a sense, it's almost like we're living whole and complete, but we're covered over with all this, like, this is how you should be, this is what you should be doing, what you're supposed to be.
Burdened by residue of other people's expectations.
Yes. So a healing, in a sense, is simply letting go of those layers. Like, it's almost like, one time it came through that it's almost like we're walking around with a jacket that we've been wearing since we were 5.
Wow, yeah.
And it's constricting us in every way.
Right.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically.
In my, I teach Daozen acting, and a lot of people I meet, to me, they seem like really great people, and they're very, excited. But then, like, I get to talk with them, and they seem like someone who could be an actor. They have the talent. They could be an actor in the sense that, they could be a working actor. And then I talk with them, and somebody in their life, usually a parent, sometimes a spouse or an ex-spouse, sometimes themselves, a lot of time themselves, basically took the rug out from under them, this potential actor, and they basically, hate to say it, but threw away years and years of what could be an acting career because they listened to that negativity, whether it was interior, exterior, or both, that said you can't do it. So they didn't do it. Now they come to me and they want to do it, and they're trying to look for that connection back to get back on track,
Wow. Yes.
So it's the same type of thing. We talk about the burden of the jacket you've had on since you were 5, since this hypothetical person, or many people have had that same jacket. Imagine that, the jacket gets old and tattered and outdrawn, and suddenly you're just left with this horrible residue on the soul.
Yeah.
What can people, we have about 5 minutes left, Judith, so what can people that have been watching and say, wow, you can say your website if people want to explore it. And
well, I will jump in with what you were talking about, is that 2 things came to mind. One is that, in a sense, we have to lose our way in order to find it again and make it our own.
Right.
So there's that I mean, even I used to, and I have a blog, and I talk about all the programs and structures that society puts on us.
Right.
But I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's inevitable that we're going to sort of get buried alive, and then it's up to us to unbury ourselves.
Right.
You know, and then we say we did it. We're not like, oh, we're not just like having it done for us. We uncovered ourselves, and it's empowering.
Yes.
But the other thing that you were mentioning about sort of critiquing one's own abilities or artistic abilities. I remember I'm in an Artist's Way group right now.
Yes.
And I realized that I stopped when I was in elementary school. I can remember the drawing. It was maybe a crayon or colored drawing of a vase with flowers.
Yes.
And thinking back, it was absolutely gorgeous. But I remember thinking, oh, it's slightly off-center.
Right.
And that is so ugly. It's not as good as so-and-so's.
Yeah, Sally.
And, you know, began comparing.
Right.
And I shut myself down.
Yeah.
No one else shut me down.
Yeah.
I said, it's not good enough, and I stopped.
Right.
So that's that whole, you know, I think we're all creative. I mean, that's what we are doing when we live each day, is we're creating our life.
Yes.
Whether we're moving furniture creatively or painting creatively or whatever. Yeah. But it's how to really get back to that issue of not judging. And the last thing I want to say is that really when we connect to this energy that we flow in, that energy is unconditionally loving and supportive.
Right.
So, you know, I go to different groups and they're talking about source energy wants you to admit your failures and wants you to, you know, tally up your defects.
Wow.
And I'm like, at this point in my life, I'm like, wow, they don't get it. That source energy is unconditionally loving.
Right.
And once you tap into that, then you can go on and say, okay, and I want to change this and this about myself. But you don't start changing it without first accessing the unconditional love and support that we flow in,
yes,
and that flows in us at each chakra.
Nice. You mentioned the book. We just have about 2.5 minutes left. The Artist's Way is a book, and I've checked it out. I haven't read the whole thing, but so you're in a group that celebrates that book? That sounds pretty interesting.
Well, we read it. It's by Julia Cameron, and it's a 12-week book.
Yeah.
You can get together with a group of artists and just week by week go through the book. And she's talking about it as recovering our creative self.
Right.
And in a sense, that's what I do in my work with people that come to me. It's like I actually worked with someone, an older woman with terminal pancreatic cancer.
Yes.
After a few sessions, she said to me, I've never felt more like myself than I have after working with you. Now, in my work, I'm not going to say this is going to cure you or anything, but I hadn't heard from her for about a year, and she called me up, came in for another session, and she looked fabulous.
Yeah.
And it's what we're doing is sort of connecting to life force energy that unconditionally loves us and supports us. And whether we, you know, whatever happens to us, it's just connecting to that and becoming feeling more like ourselves.
Right.
That's the gift of healing. Anyway.
It's a book I would like to mention, if I could, is Zen and the Art of Making a Living by Lawrence G. Bolt. I don't know if you're familiar with Lawrence Bolt, but pretty wild guy. He writes this thick volume, Zen and the Art of Making a Living. It's a book that I really subscribe to and enjoy. Maybe you would enjoy it.
Yeah.
And just speaking about the Artist's Way is a great. Anything else? I'd like you, if you don't mind, mention your website, just so in case people are intrigued or they want to reach out, they can find the website at least and find the contact through there, type of thing. It's
synchronicityandcompany.com.
Okay, great. Synchronicityandcompany.com. And you're in the South County region of Rhode Island. So yeah, great.
Yes.
We've just got about 25 seconds. What else can we say, Judith? I want to thank you for coming on the show for our 2 episodes together. Well, anything you'd like to say to wrap up?
No, just thinking what you mentioned, that book about Zen.
Yes.
I did a little bit of a Zen meditation training, and the beauty of that for me is that it's learning how to go back and, like, if you touch a hot stove,
right.
you automatically you draw your hand back. You know, it's like that's how I'm wanting to live my life, rather than should I pull my hand back from the stove? You know,
yeah.
And that's back to those little children walking through the rhododendron jungle. Is that the little children just, you know, they live and they know, okay, then that's a hot stove, I'll stay away from it. How? Because they feel it. And it's sort of like what they say about the white elephant in the room.
Right.
Children just know that it's there, they see it, they smell it, they can touch it, and we kind of train that out of them.
We've overeducated ourselves.
Yeah, so we're just kind of revealing and remembering our authentic self. And that's the beauty of this work that I offer and love. And, you know, and I think you're on that path also.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
But Judith, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for watching Messier Mantra. We want to thank our great guest, Judith. And we'll see you next time right here on Messier Mantra.